Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. We're very glad you're with us today. It is December 2nd, 2021. Please note this event is being recorded. It's currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you just enter them into the chat box. For those watching on Facebook, please just enter your questions in the comment field, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you at the end of this presentation. We are going to review one or two resumes live today at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to submit your resume, you may do so via the chat box. For those people who are watching on Zoom, please remember that if you'd like to delete your header information, please do so, because your resume will be on Facebook and YouTube from here till eternity. So just remember that, if you don't, we ask that you just get rid of your information at the very head of that. If you'd like to send it to me personally, you can just send it to Jeff Morse. Send it to me, or if you like, you can send it to everybody if that's what you want to do. But we'll look at a couple of resumes at the end of this presentation. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morse. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. It's hard to believe it's been 13 years since I started doing that. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s, and I'll tell you about our upcoming program at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Practice Interview Team. If you'd like to practice your interviewing skills, here's a free resource on how you can do that. Well, our speaker today is Brickell. She's a certified professional career coach, specializing in job search strategies, resume optimization, and interviewing skills. Carol couldn't be with us today. She's a little bit under the weather, so I'm replaying a session that she did a couple months ago. So I will replay that. And then, like I said, if you'd like to have your resume reviewed, please just send it to me in the chat box, and we will review a resume or two at the end of this session.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to those who have joined us today. Been looking forward to doing this one. Good, and welcome to everyone who's attended. Should I post my resume on LinkedIn? That's a good question. Resumes should be targeted to the job you're applying for. So I don't recommend posting just a targeted resume. But we'll talk about the concept of a master resume, that's a possibility, and also a one-page bio, which is a different type of document that's a good introduction document. That could be an excellent thing to post on LinkedIn. How many pages? Yeah, and you've probably heard different things. When I've talked to expert recruiters that are used to presenting resumes to hiring managers, for professional resumes, the sweet spot seems to be around 2 pages for people that have had 5 or more professional years. If you just have a one-page resume, that signals to the recruiter you don't have much experience. You might be just a recent college grad. Now, there are some exceptions. If you're applying for higher education or highly technical jobs, sometimes those resumes, or government jobs, those can go on for 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. So, but for most professional corporate jobs, the sweet spot seems to be about 2 pages. You want to show enough information, but you also want it targeted. So thank you for that question. And I'll be sharing some advice based on my experience. And your job as a listener is just to listen to the advice and apply, what makes sense to you. And if some things don't make sense to you, don't worry about it. You don't have to use all the advice. But the type of advice I provide is based on my experience as a hiring manager. I worked at EDS, Ross Perot's company that was acquired by Hewlett Packard. I worked there for 32 years in a variety of different roles. Systems engineer, project manager, sales consultant, managing consultant, HR, learning and development, all sorts of roles. And I was always a hiring manager, and I loved interviewing people. And we had the opportunity, if we had a certain number of years of service and age, we could volunteer for their early retirement package in 2012. And I thought that was a good time to do it for me, because I knew a lot of people that had been laid off, and I really wanted to learn the recruiting industry because I knew eventually I wanted to become a career coach. So I took early retirement in 2012. I had a great job as an agency recruiter. And then I was recruited away to do some corporate recruiting with one of my former leaders. And so I got some excellent experience for 6 years working in the recruiting industry. So I felt what it feels like to look at hundreds of resumes a day and present dozens of resumes to hiring managers and getting their feedback. And that was so valuable for me. And I experienced what it was like to receive phone calls from candidates. And so I learned so much from that. And I've placed candidates in a variety of roles. And like Jeff, I volunteer every week for the Dallas Pit Crew to help people practice interviews. And like Jeff and I said, the resume is a good tool to get in the door, but the interview is what's going to get you the job. And practicing for that interview can help you be successful. And so we've posted some information about the Dallas Pit Crew. It's real easy to sign up for a mock interview. You just simply send an email to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. It's in this flyer, and just send your resume and a target job description. It could be a job that you're actually applying for, or just a target job that you want to practice with. And we'll put you through a mock interview and let you know what you did well and give you some ideas for improvement. And then also I've been certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. So I'll be sharing my perspective based on this experience. So for today's agenda, the first thing I'm going to do is share some advice I've gathered from other experts on resumes. And the epiphany I had this week is I often hear from people that they get conflicting advice about resumes and they don't know what to do, and they have all sorts of different versions. And the epiphany I had was when I talk to people that are experts who've been recruiters or career coaches and have a lot of experience presenting resumes to hiring managers, I get very consistent feedback and advice from those people. And you'll see it because I'm going to share advice from some pretty renowned experts here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that were generous with their time and let me interview them about what's important about resumes. And you'll see there's a lot of consistency. So I think the trick is to find people who have a lot of experience looking at resumes and presenting them to hiring managers, and you'll find some consistency. Now, there are some nuances because every ATS system works differently, and there can be some different nuances on how you want to present yourself, and that's fine. But some of the big things are actually quite consistent. And then we'll talk about something new, a one-page bio that more and more people are starting to use, and it's a different type of document. And this is the kind of document you can post on LinkedIn. We'll talk about the concept of a master resume, and we'll briefly talk through some key components of a resume. And then at the end of the session, this is everybody's favorite part, you can take out your contact information and we can look at your resume and give you compliments on what's looks good about your resume and maybe give you some ideas to even make it better. So please do that, and we'll cover that at the end of the session. So the first person I interviewed regarding resumes is somebody who's been a guest speaker through some of the Career DFW sessions, and he's been a mentor for me for years, and that's Charlie Zinger, who works for Career Management Partners and has a lot of experience, and he worked with me at EDS as a recruiting manager, so he knows what it feels like to look at resumes and present them to hiring managers. And he says keep three components in mind. Keep the technology in mind, because when you're writing a resume and submitting it online, it has to go into an applicant tracking system. So be sure that it's ATS compatible, and we'll give a little more information about that. And be sure to match your resume to the job posting. So you want to create a customized version of your resume every time. And you'll just need to come up with a naming convention. Carol Brickell recruiting resume and then company name or something like that. You want to keep track of that. And the second most important point, attention to detail. And I hear this consistently, no errors. Your verb tenses, be careful about that. We'll show examples of that. Word usage, spelling errors. Make sure you show good attention to detail. I've seen hiring managers throw them away if there's spelling issues, spacing issues. Yes. And then style points, how to display multiple roles within a company. And we'll show how to do that. So the things that Charlie mentioned are absolutely compatible with the things we teach every week. And the things he says about applicant tracking systems are consistent with what we say every week. Because when you apply online, your resume is going into one of these systems. It could be Workday, it could be Taleo, and there are many applicant tracking systems. And they're reading the data in your resume and putting it into their database. So you want to be careful about the fonts. Charlie recommends Arial or Times New Roman, and don't mix them up a lot, be consistent. And also I like Calibri font size 11. That's my favorite as well. And that works in most, I think, a lot of the applicant tracking systems as well. And font size no larger than 14, not smaller than 9, especially Times New Roman. It can be kind of small. So I'd say 10 or 11 on that. And for Calibri, I say 11. And is the resume review part of the recorded session? Yes. So that's why if you want to take off your contact information or even mask the names of your companies, you can, because it will be part of the recording. And also for applicant tracking system friendly versions of your resume, don't use the header or footer part of Microsoft Word. Those sections won't get read, especially in Workday, it doesn't read it. And the bullet point should only be the default brown, black bullets, no arrowheads, starbursts, or anything special. And no font color other than black, just black and white. I hear that consistently. No excessive bolding. Yeah, reading a paragraph and then having a few words bolded. Don't do that. Just no excessive bolding except for the headings. And underlining and italics, less is best. And sometimes the underlining can cause an issue with reading text. Like if the Y goes under the underline, it won't read the word correctly. And thank you to those who have joined us. Glad you're joining in. And no icons, no pictures, no photographs of yourself on a resume. It's okay to do it for social networking, like on LinkedIn, or the one-page bio that we're talking about, which is more of a networking document. But for an official job application document like a resume, no photo of yourself or graphics. Okay, so that's advice from Charlie. And then these are a few points from me regarding applicant tracking systems, because this is one area where you may get conflicting advice. And that's because there are dozens or hundreds of systems out there. They all work differently, and each company can configure them differently. So you can hear different things about how they work. So you have to keep just kind of the big picture in mind, and don't do any special formatting on your resume. So it's really clean to be read by the system. And when you upload it in the system, it's best to use the native Microsoft Word format, because some ATS systems like Workday can't read a PDF. Now, later at the end of the application, it may say, do you want to upload an attachment of your resume? That attachment is the one that the recruiters click on and look at. That one you may want to put in a PDF format so it preserves the look and feel of the format. So when you're uploading it to be read, native MS Word, you want a corporate recruiter to look at it as an attachment. The PDF version might be better. Okay. And then the biggest advice regarding ATS systems is when you upload your ATS system in the system and just sit back and wait to get called for an interview, what do you think your chances are of getting called for an interview? Type a percentage number in chat. And those of you who've heard my presentation before may know this number. So if you apply to a job, what's the percentage chance that you're going to get called for an interview? Just type a number, just take a guess and type in chat. And those of you who joined, we use chat quite a bit. Feel free to open up your chat box, and you can always submit questions or comments in chat. And we have one guess, it's pretty close. It's actually lower than that. And I found this to be true. Statistically, I've read the number is 2% chance. So it's virtually zero. And I found that to be true. As a corporate recruiter, we would post a job. I typically get between 200 and 300 applicants. 90% of them wouldn't be qualified. And the ATS system would sort people kind of by keywords and experience. And I might look at the top 10 or 20, and that's about it. And I might call 8 of them, maybe 5 to 8, and invite 5 in for interviews. So that's less than 2%. So what you have to do to overcome that, and you have to do this to get an interview, you have to take an extra step and contact a person to let them know that you meet the requirements. Don't just call and say, hey, I'm really interested in this job. This would be really great for my career. Yeah, I'd love to do this. I'd like to work for you guys. No, call and say, I want to introduce myself. I just applied for your job, your corporate recruiting job, and I meet all of the requirements. Specifically, I have over 5 years of experience recruiting, and I've recruiting for accounting and finance people, which is one of the requirements on the job. Be happy to have a conversation with the appropriate recruiter. Call someone. You might ask me, well, who do I call? If you know somebody at the company, call them or send a note to them and say, I just applied for this job. I meet the requirements. I'd be grateful if you could forward it to the recruiting team. And they may get a referral bonus if you do that. Or if you don't know anybody there, reach out to the person who posted the job. Once in a blue moon on LinkedIn, it'll show the name of the recruiter who posted the job. You could send them a quick note on LinkedIn, or they may have their email posted on LinkedIn. Send them a brief note. Wanted to introduce myself, just applied for your position. Name of the position, I meet the requirements, specifically this and this. Be happy to have a conversation. Now, if you don't know anyone, I don't recommend reaching out to any old recruiter because they're probably underwater working on other jobs, maybe at risk of losing their job because they haven't met their quotas. So I recommend going up a level, finding a recruiting leader, recruiting or talent acquisition, hopefully somebody who's been there a while. Reach out to them and say you meet the requirements. Be happy to speak to the appropriate recruiter, and they'll either talk to you or get you to the right recruiter. And I will tell you, as a recruiter and a recruiting manager, if I got a phone call like that and somebody said, hey, I just applied for your job. I had a salesperson say, and I'm your gal. I'm in New York City. I've sold financial services and I meet all my sales targets. I flew her to Dallas the next week and we hired her. So those are the people I hire, people that are proactive. So that's my tip of the day. Okay, here's some more advice. This is from Sarah Jacob, who's a wonderful recruiter that spends time with some of the networking groups around Dallas-Fort Worth, and I've learned a lot from her. And she provides a lot of good advice. And don't include your home address, don't include pictures on your resume, and create a professionally named Gmail account for your job search. And don't use a silly email address. Use something that has your name in it. It looks more professional, and it's easier for recruiters to find you in their stacks of emails. And make sure your voicemail box is a professional message and is cleaned out. You don't want it to be full. And include the entire tenure at one company, and list out progressive positions underneath each title. And we'll show you how to do that when we show formatting. Use a chronological resume in reverse chronological order, not functional. Hiring managers want to see your accomplishments under each position. This is all very consistent with the things we've been teaching week after week. Focus on your hard skills, the skills you learn on the job, your industry expertise, especially relating to the industry you're applying for. Now, if you're applying for a job at a manufacturing company, you want to highlight that. They don't care if you've worked in retail or financial services. So focus on that. And soft skills that are maybe, go softer on this. Now, if they mention that they need somebody who can work in a fast-paced environment, you might want to put that in your opening paragraph, but don't go too heavy on the soft skills. Sometimes those are overused, like hard worker, team player, strategic thinker. Some of those soft skills recruiters are getting tired of listening to. list software systems on your resume, especially ones that are required by the job description. And if they're looking for people who can do pivot tables and VLOOKUPs, say Microsoft Excel, including pivot tables and VLOOKUPs. And sometimes, recruiters and ATS systems are looking for specific software. We'll show you how to do that. Write a brief summary instead of an objective. We'll show how to do this. And don't write in the first person, especially your opening paragraph. Write it professionally in the third person. We'll show how to do that. So all of these tips are very consistent with what we've been teaching week after week. And here are tips from the wonderful Gail Houston, who leads one of the teachers for the career transition workshops we do here. And she's been a guider and a mentor to many of us in the recruiting industry. And she recommends making sure you've customized your LinkedIn URL so it doesn't have those extra characters at the end of it. Make it short. And you can do that by going to LinkedIn, to your profile page, and click on Edit Public Profile URL, and you can shrink that up if you need to. And then put it on your resume. And put it on in text format, not a hot link. Because if you put a hot link, some systems like Workday will throw it in a frenzy. So put it on the top of your resume, and we'll show how to do that. And again, a professional looking email and your closest city or state. If you live in a suburb that people don't recognize, it makes it kind of challenging. So put the closest major city that you're looking for. And make sure you have a focus statement or the job title that's closest to your background that matches the job description. And we'll show how to do that as well. Accomplishments-based resume, just not tactical responsibilities. And we'll show how to do that as well. Be careful with formatting. You don't want it so crowded, and recommend 2 pages. So we'll show how to do all these things. So see, this is why I had this epiphany that when I talk to these people that I've learned from over the years, their feedback is very consistent with it. And then also when I got certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers, again, they say easy to read, make lots of white space, free from spelling, punctuation, grammatical errors, and spell out acronyms in most cases. There might be exceptions like SAP, you wouldn't spell that out. But if it's a unique acronym, and if it's an acronym just used at your company, you may just want to try to use a more generic term rather than the acronym that was used just at your company. And focus on skills related to the target job, include qualitative and quantitative accomplishments, graphics, pictures, underlines, or boxes for the ATS resumes. So this is fairly consistent. Now we're going to talk about the concept of a one-page bio. Type in chat if you have a one-page bio. Type yes in chat and let us know how you use that. And I'm finding as I'm coaching people, everybody has a resume when they're applying for a job. However, when you're networking with people, like let's say, I'm going to use Lennox Industries as an example, because my dad worked there for 42 years and designed the rooftop air conditioning systems on schools. And I know I'm one of the HR people. Let's say I just want to reach out to Lennox and just get advice from somebody, maybe in HR, about what it's like to work there or what kind of jobs might my background align to. I wouldn't want to send them a resume because that would make them think, oh, I'm just looking for a specific job. But what I would do is reach out to them and say, I've always admired Lennox. My dad worked there. Would you have time for 15 minutes to give me advice? Here's my bio. And a bio is just a softer, gentler document that provides kind of an overview of who I am. And thank you. People are starting to network here in chat, and feel free to do that. Network with each other. So if you want to go into chat, type in, everybody will see your name, but type in the target company you're looking for, target jobs and target companies, and then help each other out if you know people at any of those target companies. So thank you for doing that proactively and networking in chat. You're welcome to do that. I highly recommend it for networking purposes because it when you're networking with people, it puts them more at ease. You're just trying to get to know them, because the thing that causes people not to reach back out to you when you're reaching out to networking is, number one, they're afraid they can't find you a job. Number two, they're afraid it's going to take a whole bunch of time. But if you just say, would you have 15 minutes? I'd be interested in your advice about my career. And here's my bio just to introduce myself. That makes it a little more friendly, and they're more likely to respond to you. So we'll share a couple of samples with you, and we'll put them in chat, and you're welcome to use and leverage these. I was searching for a one-page bio that would be easy to update in Microsoft Word, and one of my clients had this format, so I just plugged my information into it. And again, it has a picture because it's a social networking document. It's not an official job application document like a resume. And it has key areas of expertise, a little bit of background, very brief information about my professional biography, the companies I've worked for, education, certifications, contact information, and major accomplishments. And this is where you want to quantify accomplishments relating to your areas of expertise. So it's just kind of a nice introductory document. And then here's another version. This is another type that's in landscape mode that has competencies, a little bit more information there, professional achievements and professional biography, target functions that I'm looking for, and target companies. And if you're talking to one specific company, you may want to be careful about this. Do you want to list all the other companies you're looking at or not? Now, if you're just reaching out to maybe a former boss and just trying to get their advice, you might list all the companies you're thinking about, and they may help you add to that list. So that list you may want to be a little more careful about. So these are a couple of examples of bios, and you're welcome to use these and leverage these. And now this is something I've learned about from Jeff. So Jeff, if you'd like to share a few words of wisdom about the concept of a master resume.
Make your life easy when you're looking for a job. Create yourself a master resume. I know in my case, I probably have 20 different resumes over the years, and I have a file from when I first graduated college with all the different variations of my resume that I used. And so my recommendation is make one giant Word document or Google Doc document, whatever you're using for a word processing program, that has everything you've ever done since the very beginning, and list 8 or 10 bullet points for each one, list addresses, who your manager was, list all the details. And then when you see a job description, take that master resume, save it as however you save different versions, and then start eliminating everything that's not on the job description. Because if it's not on the job description, they don't care about it. Now, they may when you're in an interview, but as far as you want the person who is matching up the job description with the resume to find a fit. So just tell them what they want to know. Everybody here's done a lot of great things, but tell them what they want to know so you can get that phone call.
Yes. And this topic was brought up yesterday in one of Foster Williams' sessions, one of his Who You Know sessions, where they brought in someone who'd been looking for a job for over a year. And initially her resume was, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages long. It listed everything at the top of her resume. She listed all the titles of things she could do, very different. And she wasn't getting any responses because recruiters looked at her resume and they thought, this person doesn't know what they want to do. And so somebody gave her advice, you need to focus it. So she created a 2-page version and focused on one of her titles, where she had the most expertise. And then she started getting more results, and then she got a job. So, and then I talked to people that have been through this. So a master resume is a great document to start with, but then you need to focus on the jobs that you're applying to. So this is an excellent point. Good. And now I'll briefly walk through just characteristics of good resumes, and then we'll look at the sample that we received. So the main goal is to make it easy for those ATS systems and for the human beings, the recruiters and the hiring managers to see immediately that you're a good match for the job. Because how long do you think when a recruiter is looking at resumes, how long do you think they spend looking at a resume? Type a number in chat. How long do you think a recruiter spends looking at a resume? Good guess. Somebody's typed in less than 20 seconds, less than 10 seconds, or 10 seconds. I used to say, as a recruiter, I would spend between 5 and 10 seconds. Somebody said 8. That's actually very close statistically. I've read statistics, 7.4 seconds. You know, they look at the top, they look at your longevity on your jobs, they look at just key areas of expertise, double check the software skills, double check if there's a degree requirement, double check that. That's about it. Really quick. They're just scanning. And so you want to make it easy. So you want your formatting to be very clean. The margins should be about a 1-inch margin around the edge, lots of white space. Overall length, we've talked about the sweet spot for most professional resumes. If you have, more than 3 or 5 years of service, try to go on to 2 pages. Some government jobs, technical jobs, 3, 4, 5 pages is okay, but sweet spot's about 2 pages. 1 page signals you're a recent college grad. Number of years. This is where you kind of do what makes most sense for you. I'd be interested in feedback from people in the audience. Type in A, B, or C. A, do you show all of your experience on your resume? And there's no right or wrong. I'll tell you what hiring managers kind of prefer, but it can depend. Do you type in A or do you type in B? Or do you do B, show just your most recent 10 or 15 years? Or do you show C, details about your most 10, 15, 20 years of experience, and then prior relevant experience? And somebody said C. And actually, that's the one I found hiring managers prefer. Now, when I applied for a job, I was networking. I was 59 years old, and I was networking with people that knew me. They knew I'd worked at ATS forever, so I showed all my experience. But that was unusual. As a recruiter, I saw a lot of B, where people would show 10 years and then cut it off. And their job titles were like director, VP, or whatever. I'm like, didn't you have other jobs before that? And then in a job interview, we'd ask them a question. Tell us about a time you had to implement a challenging project. And they'd mention some project at some company. I'm like, I don't even see this on your resume. And it would cause confusion. And I found hiring managers like to see a little bit more of the full story. So they like to see details about the recent experience, but also prior relevant experience. And in that section, and we'll show you an example, you don't have to put dates. You can just list prior company names and titles that are relevant to what you're applying for. It would show kind of interesting background relating to what you're applying for. Hiring managers like that. So I kind of recommend C in most cases. And then these are some of the key components of a resume that we'll talk through. You might have other components like publications, certifications as well, but these are some of the sections we'll talk through. So the heading is important. Make it real clear, your name and these 4 types of information, your phone number, closest major city that people would recognize, a professional looking email address, preferably with your name in it, so it's easy to find, and a kind of a recent type of email address like Gmail, and your LinkedIn, and you want to make that text, not a hot link, because that'll throw off some ATS systems like Workday, and no physical street address. Summary profile. This is very important. It's not an objective. You don't want to say, I'm seeking a job where I can learn and grow my skills. No, you want this to be a summary of who you are in relation to what that job is looking for. So every time you apply for a job, you want to read that job description, and you want to get an idea of what's the heart of that job. What are they really looking for? And in your opening few words, you want to hit that up. So if you're a business analyst and you've been a business analyst, put that top and center. That's what Gail Houston said. This is your headline. Now, if you're kind of changing jobs or careers, you may want to nuance that a little bit. If you're applying for a VP of HR, but you've never been a VP of HR, you may put HR leader or something that's close to what you don't want to falsify what you are, something that's close to the job that you're applying to. And you may want to talk to a recruiter or a career coach about how to do that. But if you're a business analyst applying for a business analyst job where they want you to document business requirements and work directly with customers, say you're a business analyst and that's what you've done in your very first sentence, because the recruiter may just read the first few words. And then these areas of expertise, you want to pick out the keywords that are used in the job description and put those in your resume. And this is my favorite part as a recruiter to look at and modify this every time you apply for a job. And then the next section is optional, but it's very helpful for people in sales or other types of roles where you have to show that you have a consistent track record of winning awards or achieving targets over several jobs. And even recruiters sometimes use a section like this. So this is important for these types of jobs. And professional experience, this is where you want your layout to be very clean, reverse chronological order, use parallel verbs. This is what some of the other experts mentioned. For a job in the past tense, all of your bullet points should start with a strong verb, focusing on the results, and you in the past tense. If you have a current job that you're working on, it would probably mostly be in the present tense, unless you completed something, then it might be in the past tense, but maybe put that at the bottom so it doesn't look confusing. And then it's beneficial to a lot of recruiters if you can include a one-line description of the company, especially if people don't know the company name, and it helps the recruiter understand what industries you've worked in. And limit the number of bullets per job. The most recent job, you might have 5, 6, 7, or 8 bullets, but after that, maybe just about 4 or 5 bullets per job. And focus on results in your bullet points. Somebody asked me to go back a screen. Is this the screen you were looking for, the key accomplishments? You can take a quick screenshot of this if you want. Excuse me. And this accomplishment screen is useful for people, especially in sales or business development or roles where you have to show a track record of meeting targets. Okay. Good, thanks for asking that. That's the purpose of the chat box. You can ask me questions and I can respond. And then in these bullet points, wherever possible, you want to try to focus on results. And I have a fun game that I play with people I'm coaching to help them focus their bullets on results. And it's called the So What game. If you've heard me talk about the So What game, type yes into chat. And here's a real example when I was helping a marketing manager. She had a bullet point in her professional experience where she guided the next stage of brand evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production. And so I just said, so what? But I really meant, so what was the accomplishment? What was the outcome? What was the business result? So I said, so what was the outcome? She goes, well, this actually increased the business opportunities and it led to new commissions for my client. So then she reworded her bullet point to focus on those results. And she started with a stronger verb. You know, up here she said she guided the next stage of brand evolution. But now she's saying she increased business opportunities, including 10 commissions for her client based on developing social media strategy and PR strategy. And so here what she did was she actually changed some of the language. It was still true to what she did, but she used some of the language that the company was looking for in their job description. So she did 2 good things here. She increased, she focused on the result, made the opening verb stronger, increased business opportunities. And then she used the keywords and skills that the company was working for. So this was a really good example. Okay. And multiple roles at one company. If you've had multiple roles at a company, this is very important. It's really important to list the full tenure, and some of the experts mentioned this, the full tenure you were at that company. And if you had multiple roles, put the dates that you're in those roles up next to those titles. Because if you justify all these dates, now remember, recruiters are just scanning your resume. And if you justify those dates, they're going to think you're a job hopper. But if you do it this way, it looks like you've had good tenure. It looks like, oh, maybe you've been promoted. And it tells a stronger story. And then regarding education and software, this is how you can show that information. And again, it's important to list software skills, especially software that they're looking for in the job description. If they're looking for Excel, mention Excel. If they're looking for Excel with pivot tables, put that. If they're looking for Visual Studio, list that. And if you don't have a degree, like if you don't have a bachelor's, don't put bachelor's, because then it could raise a yellow flag. They could think you're falsifying your resume. So just put the school, city and state, maybe your major or area of concentration, or maybe the number of course hours, something like that. And then this is a very important activity. And once you've done this a couple times, it should take you just a few minutes to align your resume to the job you're applying for. So look at the title. If you're a business analyst applying for a business analyst job, put that front and center. So if the recruiter goes, yes, yay, that's somebody that meets our requirements, a business analyst. And look at what they're looking for. What's the heart of the job? They're looking for somebody who can document business requirements. Put that in the very first statement. Looking for somebody who can improve processes, work with cross-functional teams. And then look at the section at the bottom of the job description. This is usually the requirements for the job or the qualifications. We're looking for methodologies like Agile, Scrum. Put those in your areas of expertise if you have those. Visual Studio, if you have that, put it there. And if you're just taking training classes or watching YouTube classes about it, you could put Visual Studio parentheses training. You could do that. And it's still true. You're going through some training on Visual Studio, but you can still put it on your resume. I've seen people do that. If you've done, a significant amount, if you've invested several hours of training in it, you could do that. And then read some of the roles and responsibilities and highlight those keywords in your resume as well. So take a few minutes. This is very valuable to do this.
Well, that is Carol's presentation. If anybody has a resume and you'd like us to look at your resume, we'd be glad to do so. If you want to pop it up here, we'll be glad to do a quickie resume review. If you have any questions, please unmute your mic, ask your questions. We'd be glad to get them answered for you. Any questions? Anybody want to send me your resume to open up and take a look? If you do, please get rid of you can do it via the chat box. Anyone? Going once, going twice? If you're going to try to send something, let me know that it's coming.
I'm working on it. Hold on.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Thanks for everybody for being with us today. Sorry, Carol couldn't be with us. She's under the weather right now. So. You're able to attach it in the chat window?
I'm working on it. I'm sorry. Just give me one more minute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I blew it here somewhere. Almost ready. Where are you here?
Anybody disagree with anything that you heard from any of the resume experts? Anything you would do a little differently? If you are applying for a job with the US government or you're applying for an academic job at a university, they're going to want to see your 10, 12, 14, 22 page resume because they want to see everything. But if you're applying just to a recruiter, to a ad, on an online job or something, 2 pages, maybe 3 is all you need. And one of the things that you also have to remember is that people don't print out resumes anymore. It used to be you wanted to make sure you had information with your name at the top of every resume. And, oh, wait a second here. What'd you do? Oh, you just highlight it. Let's see here. Bill, you just highlighted. Can you, what you want to do? What you want to do is you want to click on the little window in the chat box at the very bottom. There's a little window where you can attach a file.
Oh, okay.
And then attach the file and send it to me. But like I was saying, though, you know, it used to be used to print out resumes. And so you want to make sure your name would be on the top of the 2nd page, the top of the 3rd page, because in case they got lost. But nowadays, people just look at resumes online. They rarely print a resume out. So you don't need to have your name at the top of the 2nd page, the top of the 3rd page, or at the bottom of the pages to do it. As long as your name's at the beginning of the first one, that's all that matters.
Sorry, I'm not seeing where it says attach under the chat.
Okay, so at the very bottom of the chat box, you see it says to, and then you're going to select, make sure you select me, select my name,
No, I'm not
or you
seeing
can
it.
select everyone. And then next to that, there's a little piece, looks like a little piece of paper. If you click on that little piece of paper next to the smiley face, do you see that?
I do not. Sorry.
All right. Let me go back.
Sorry about this. Never done this before. It's not.
Okay, hold on. Let me share. I'll share a screen here and I'll show you right where it's at. So you see here the Zoom chat window. And right now it currently says everyone because you pasted something in there. So I know you can see it. You should have a place where that blue arrow is where it says file. And you want to click on that little piece of paper. And when you click on it, it should open up and say, you should be able to, you know, select where your document's at and attach your document there.
You know, I think what it is because I'm looking at Zoom in a Google window, so I'm not seeing the whole thing. That's probably why. I'm not in actually Zoom itself. I'm in a window of Zoom in Google.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's why.
Well, I guess the other thing that if you like to do, if you want to send it to me, can you just email it to me?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay,
Sorry
email it to resume@careerdfw.org. Resume@careerdfw.org.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, guys. Excellent work. Great tips. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, instead of taking a look at his resume, let me go ahead and just clean out. We'll just close out a few things, and then I'll help. We'll take a look at. Whoops, wrong thing here. Stop share, screen share. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, that's why it didn't work. All right, do a few things here. If you're online and you'd like to get the sample T cover letter, the sample 1 page, the bios, if you didn't get any of those, please just send me an email to resume@careerdfw.org and let me know what you're looking for, and we'll get those out to you. Bill, I'll do a I'll send you some comments about your resume. If you send it to me, I'll take a look at it and get back in touch with you.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. I will.
We're putting on training 4 days a week. Hopefully you join us. Tomorrow at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, we're going to have open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. So bring your topics, and everybody is able to jump in and offer their advice. Everybody here is an expert in their job search, and you can offer your opinions and suggestions. We'd look forward to having you tomorrow morning at 9:30. Next Tuesday, for our LinkedIn Tuesday, Kurt Vondermatter will be with us. Kurt is a retained search consultant. He pays LinkedIn $10,000 a year for the full-blown recruiting package, and he will show us what it looks like. So join us next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Next Wednesday for our Interview Wednesday session, Tony Bashera, who happens to own and run Babbage and Associates, one of the oldest recruiting firms in the DFW area, will be with us to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes that people make in interviewing. Tony interviews people every day. He sees resumes every day. He's been doing this for 35 years now. So he knows what he likes, and he'll be sharing his top 10 mistakes next Wednesday. And then next Thursday, being in the second Thursday of the month, we'll be talking about networking, how to make a networking strategy that works with Mike Perry. Mike's from the Ohio area. I heard his presentation a few months ago and asked him to present to us. And so he'll be presenting next Thursday at 1 o'clock. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist, and then down below, pick whichever list you'd like to look at the topics, resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, whatever one it is. And then down below where you see that red arrow, click on view full playlist, and up will come a list of all the different dates and topics and titles. And that way you can find the most current or go back and see whatever session it is you'd like to go back and review at your leisure. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please do so. Send an email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We've got no full or part-time employees. Everything I've done over the last 13 years has been as a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteers. They're just here to help you land your next great opportunity. Please consider making a donation when you get your next job. So thank you for joining us today. There's that email address, your email address again, if you'd like to send us that email. For everybody else out there, have a great Thursday afternoon, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow morning. If not, we'll see you one day next week.